My reading for today's Contemplative is from This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes. This end of the line is the kingdom which has been promised. This spirit is happy, whole, free, filled with joy, eternal in its existence, and can provide you with everlasting expansion. All your highest hopes and dreams have come from it. The echo of its being is in your intellect. The voice of its unspoken word is in your mind. The feeling of its light and life is in your heart. The emotion of its imagination is in your soul. And so as we turn to today's service, please look into each other's eyes and see the one presence, the one life. Feel our oneness and this present kingdom as Reverend Angelica speaks to us. We are all one. The one God, the one life, the one love. And so it is.
There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. You are my reflection. There is only one.
And now I give thanks for the voice of our spiritual leader, Reverend Angelica.
Thank you. Thank you. Les and Jackson.
some reason this doesn't work from over there. It did when Scott was doing the announcements, but then it stopped. And I'm discovering I have to touch the screen in order for it to start again. I'm thinking Santa's going to bring me a new computer.
Ask.
Anyway, this morning we're here celebrating the Triumphant Journey. We've talked about breathing in the view. In fact, all year long we've gone we've made a journey, a spiritual journey together with the different months, etc. And so we're not quite done yet, but this November is the perfect month to celebrate. And of course, you know, it's my favorite month because we celebrate gratitude. And gratitude, I believe, is the most important key in our spiritual toolbox. And yet, haven't we been challenged? In the past week, things have happened in our country that do not make any sense. And I find myself, I didn't write a Friday message this week, for instance, because all I wanted to do was bitch. And I couldn't figure out, you know, I thought, oh, well, I can start out by bitching and say, how is this possible, blah, blah, blah. But how do I bring it around to the spiritual, which is what my Friday message is all about. So I just went, oh, well, I'm not doing one. And I didn't feel like I was celebrating the Triumphant Journey this past week, not as the collective. But we are, and we can do it on an individual basis. In fact, that is one of the only things that is going to move us forward. It takes one by one by one by one, each of us choosing to live life in a more honorable way, a more spiritual way, for it finally to catch hold and become the norm. And you know, it's like, I remember that place in Scripture where they're walking outside the city, God and Job, I think. I mean, I'm not real good right now with the Bible, but, and he says, well, how many men would it take to save the city? And God, you know, would it take 50? And God says yes. Would it take 25? And God says yes. And he gets down to 10, and God still says yes. And when you look at the numerology that's involved in biblical writings, you realize that what it was really saying was it only takes one. So I've made a commitment to be one that changes the consciousness of humanity. I know that some of you have as well. You wouldn't be in a teaching like this unless you were honoring that part of our global vision that says awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. So, from our global vision, we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought, a world where each and every person discovers his or her own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. This is what we're envisioning. This is what we'll be envisioning until we actually see it. And yet, as I think about it, you know, the truth is every single person, we've talked about this before, is on an ever upward spiral. You know, and on each level of our spiral, we think, we've made it. And then the next level of the spiral appears. So for me, in my own personal understanding, I'm never going to get it, you know, with capital letters, right? But I'm going to get it by bits and pieces as I make my journey. And my intention is to make it from a spiritual point of view, and to realize my own personal power and ability to use my life to create, or to use my creativity to create my individual life knowing that everything I do in consciousness not only changes me, but changes everybody around me. You know, like the proverbial pebble thrown in the pond. Dr. Holmes says in the textbook, when we constructively praise and creatively bless, life abounds with love, peace, and joy. Let us so live and think that we may retire at night in peace, knowing that no harm can come to the soul. That we may rise in the morning renewed in body and in mind, with a brighter outlook, a happier expectation, and a clearer joy. In everything give thanks. So I looked at last week and I thought, how do I give thanks for that? And what I've been saying for the past 18, 19 months is we give thanks for these things showing up because then they can be healed. It has to be revealed in order to be healed. It's like we've proverbially swept everything under the carpet and gone, oh, life is good. And maybe your life is good. My life is good. But even though, for instance, I thought I wasn't racist, I recognized there was places that I was still acting in that way. But to be able to rise in the morning renewed in body and in mind with a brighter outlook, a happier expectation and clearer joy. To be able to do this, we've got to practice Thanksgiving more than one day a year. We have to practice Thanksgiving more than one day, one moment a day. We have to look. This is where we are now, I believe. We can't just accept stuff. We have to look for it. What can I be grateful for today? That's why I've said over the years, do a gratitude journal every night. Because then you allow yourself to remember. And remember when Dr. Ken Gordon spoke to us, he said that Tony Hagee, who spoke for us one time, invited him to do a gratitude journal, but then every single day it had to be new things. Well, I've been trying that. Trying is the key word. But I do find things. You know, I mean, maybe one day I might say, oh, I'm so grateful for my cat's purr. And the next day I might say, I'm so grateful for Sandy sitting on my lap. Well, that's different. It's new. So I have some ideas for us. And in this journey that we're on, the spiritual journey called life that we're on, I want us to do a few things. So my first one is to recognize our growth. I don't know about you, but you know, at the beginning of the shutdown, back in March 2020, I thought, oh wow, now I've got time to clean my house. Well, I've got, you know, I used to think it was because I didn't have time. Now I know that I was lying. But I have paid more attention to my spiritual life. And it's almost like I felt, and I've even said this before, it was like the universe went, look, you guys have messed up everything. Go to your rooms and think about this. And so we've gotten to do a lot of thinking, haven't we? We've gotten to do a lot of thinking. But one of the things I want us to realize is that we also want to recognize how far we've come. I mean, even physically, if you look at our building, since the shutdown, because of Brian and Donna, this space has been painted. You know, it's a lot fresher. We have solar panels on the ceiling that aren't, I mean on the roof that aren't hooked up yet, but they're there. You know, and thanks to Doug taking care of that. You know, so many different things. The yard is being taken up. That Rick, you know, helped create or got the idea for that path from the parking lot to the sidewalk to the front door. I mean, lots of things around here physically have been made new or been refreshed. And so we have to recognize that growth. In fact, I was looking at a whole bunch of pictures the other day, trying to delete a lot of stuff out of my computer, thinking maybe that'll make it work better. And I was looking at, wow, since I've been here, we've put in the ADA ramp. You know, lots of different things have happened in the 7 years that I've been here. So we as a community have grown. However, it says personal growth doesn't occur without effort. The effort is one of recognizing your own power and taking ownership and responsibility for your own development. If we really knew how powerful we were, we would be in awe. I want you to remember that one of the basic things in our teaching is all there is God. That doesn't mean that God avoids this space. All of us are an expression, a unique, individualized expression of this one divine energy. And in that energy, the universe doesn't say, oh, well, you can only have a little bit of power. You've got it all. But we don't believe it. Because the second major thing in our teaching is, it's done unto you as you believe. Jesus said it, Buddha said it, many of the great spiritual teachers of the world have said that. It's all about what we believe. So I'm knowing for us that as we recognize our growth, we also look at, where have my beliefs changed? What do I actually believe about the science of mind? What do I actually believe about taking ownership and responsibility for my own development? There's a part of me, you know, I've been in this teaching almost 40 years, and there's a part of me that still wants somebody else to do it. You know, can't somebody just open my brain and put in some of these truth teachings and they'll be mine, I'll believe them and act like they're there? That would be wonderful. But recognize your own growth. We've all grown so much. My second idea is to start appreciating life. Really, really, really appreciate it. So I want you this week, this is your homework, you want to look around you. I mean, you can look around you right now. I mean, here we are in this warm, pretty building that feels, when I come in here during the week, this room feels so sacred. It's a nice thing to sit down in this room and just be still for a while. And you know, the room, the energy, our spiritual energy is being embodied by this. This too is God, remember? There's nothing that is not God. So everything is embodying this energy that we bring to it. I remember in England, I had just finished reading a book called Sarum by James Weatherford. I think it's James. Rutherford is his last name. Big, thick book, my favorite kind of books, big books. And it was all about how the cathedral at Wells in England was built. So of course, when I was in England, I had to go see it. And from the moment I walked in the front doors, I felt the energy of hundreds of years of hundreds of people who had been in this building praying to God. Even with all the tourists around looking at things and whispering to each other. And it was really neat that they whispered to each other. You know, nobody was using a loud voice because they knew they were in a sacred space. And it had little side chapels that were dedicated to different saints and to Mary and, you know, things like that. And everything in there was so sacred. And I realized hundreds of people have been in this church, this cathedral, for years and years. And so that energy is there. And it's there if you have a home altar which I firmly believe in. If you have a home altar and you use it to sit there and do your spiritual mind treatments or your meditation or whatever it is that you're doing as your spiritual practice, the energy, you're bringing the energy of love and of intention to that altar. So that when you might be feeling uncomfortable, you can go sit there and that energy will soothe you. It's all done unto you as you believe. Look around you. Appreciate what you have. Nothing will be the same in a year. Think about that. I mean, we won't even look the same in a year. You know, we'll lose weight or gain weight or get more gray hairs, or you just don't know what's going to happen day by day. So appreciate life right now. And what I'm going to say is appreciate life with a capital L. If you're looking at people, as Les said in her reading, let yourself see the God in them. And it's being reflected. The God in you is being reflected. Let yourself really appreciate life in plants, in every living thing, and even in inanimate objects. Do you know that when you're driving your car, that too is God? There isn't anything that isn't made from divine energy. Everything is God. So appreciate it all. And my last one is celebrate. Ta-da! Celebration is so important, I feel like. You know, in my travels around the world and visiting antiquities, you know, I definitely visit the tombs and temples and things, anything like that that I can visit. And there's a whole group of ministers right now in Egypt posting all their pictures on Facebook. And, you know, I've been there already, so I'm feeling this feeling that I was feeling when I visited myself. And one of the things that I recognize in so many of the Holy of Holies, the very center of whatever it is, there are carvings or paintings on the walls of people singing and dancing. There's no carvings or paintings of people kneeling in prayer. They're singing and dancing. And I thought, boy, sometimes we take things just a bit too seriously. And so I like this idea of ta-da! You know, you manifest something in your life. Be joyful about it. You know, I mean, they play the music before church in the morning, and I want to dance, and I'm a sort of a klutzy dancer, but you know, there's a part of me that goes, oh, don't do that. You know, move. I got to move past that because it's a celebration thing, right? And let me tell you about the word ta-da. Years ago, Reverend Helen Street, most of you know that was my teacher. We're all at Asilomar sitting around this table. We always had to sit outside no matter how cold it was because Helen smoked. Do you think I have a little thing on that? Anyway, and so we were talking about doing this, getting excited about our demonstrations, about the things that happen in our life that we attract to us. And I said something that had happened that was really good. And she stands up and goes, ta-da! And I suddenly realized that TADA is totally accepting divine action. And let me tell you about divine action. You know, when you start in the science of mind, you learn how to manifest things. We learn how to manifest parking spaces. We learn how to manifest the right and perfect mate or the right and perfect job or, you know, more money, whatever. We teach you that you can use this energy to manifest in your life. But after a while, you realize you don't even have to ask. that there is this infinitely intelligent energy that's unconditionally loving, that loves us so much, and it knows already what is for our highest and best good. And so I just have come to this place now where I am totally accepting divine action in my life, and I'm just letting the universe shower me with what we call in the wellness group love notes. I love how the universe works. If I say, oh, this week I want to have more love notes, then I either get something in the mail, or somebody calls me, or somebody takes me out to lunch, or something fun happens. And then I have to go back to the first one, which is recognize it. Recognize that that was a love note. And pretty soon you start realizing that everything that's happening in your life is a love note. Everything. Absolutely everything. And so celebrate it. Celebrate it with every fiber of your being. And if there's still that little bit of you that says, well, I don't deserve this much good, tell it to shut up. Didn't I have a slide last week about living in grace? You don't have to work really hard to live under the specialized use of the law called grace. You just have to be available to it. Each one of us has to be available for life to live itself through us in a greater way. So let's say this affirmation together, and then we'll go into treatment. And Les has been writing the affirmations this month, so we thank her for that. Our every step carries us toward a thankful homecoming. We meet the rejoicing of love at every turn. Now let's go into prayer or treatment. I recognize that there is only this one great life. That life is God's life, and that life is living in, through, and as us right now. There is nothing but God. And so I allow this idea to sink even deeper into my subjective mind, so that it becomes so normal, so natural to live from this place. To recognize that there is so much to be grateful for. Because as we're walking this amazing path called life itself, the spiritual adventure called life, the whole universe is rushing forward to make it the best life. And so we start believing in that there is that within us that loves us so much that it expressed itself as us to experience this being human as us. And so I know for each one of us this week, as we step into this idea of Thanksgiving more fully, that not only are we thankful for our families and friends, the people that we gather with, but we're thankful for the food, for the farmers, for the earth itself. We're thankful for absolutely everything. And I know for us that as we move out of this service today, we allow ourselves to remember to be grateful, to acknowledge what there is to be grateful for. Maybe for the sun shining. Maybe a simple thing like a butterfly. Whatever it is, it's all God. There's nothing but God. And God being grateful to itself, as it shows up absolutely everywhere, has got to be the highest energy there possibly could be. So I know for all of us that we experience some divine love notes this week, and we consciously acknowledge them, and we let ourselves appreciate them, and appreciate all the people and all the things and all the all the everything. We appreciate life itself. How wonderful it is to be sitting here or standing here, breathing in clean air, being able to hear and taste and smell and see and touch. Being human is awesome. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for every person in our community, sitting in the sanctuary, watching on Zoom. I'm thankful for all of us that are on this path together, this spiritual adventure called life. And I know and acknowledge that we're making it a good one. So instead of saying, "and so it is" today, what I want us to say is, ta-da! Ta-da! Thank you very much.